Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf. Rosh HaShanna Yud Ches, we begin 2 lines from the top of the Amud. In yesterday's Daf, Rabbi Yehuda tells us, Tshuva has such a tremendous power. It can overturn even a Gezar Din. Gedoy l'tshuva shemekaras Gezar Dine shel Adam. However, the Gemara concluded, it appears this only applies to a tzivur. So the power of the communal tshuva and tefillah can overturn, can tear up even a negative Gezar Din. A yachid perhaps does not have that ability. Says the Gemara on the second line from the top of Gezar Din de yachid tanai. Actually, this question of whether or not a yachid individual can go ahead and overturn a Gezar Din by way of tshuva, by way of tefillah, is a machlokes tanaim. Some maintain that even a yachid has that ability, and some disagree. The Sanya Hoyer Reb Meir Omer. Reb Meir used to say as follows. We have an interesting scenario where Shnayim she'alu lamita, 2 people went up to a bed, meaning they fell ill, they're sick. V'chol yon shava, they're both experiencing the same illness, same exact condition. Another example, V'chein Shnayim she'alu legardaim, lidoin, 2 fellows went up to the garden, the place where they get judged for severe offenses. V'dinon shava, they're both guilty of the same offense. And what happened? Each one experienced a different result. Ze yorad v'ze lo yorad. Regarding the 2 people that were sick, one fellow came off the bed, he recovered. The other one did not. In the case of the gardaim, ze nitzal, this fellow was saved, he was acquitted, found to be not guilty. V'ze lo nitzal, the other fellow was found to be guilty. Why that disparity? What happened? What's the difference? Why did this fellow recover and this one didn't? This fellow was saved from punishment, this fellow not. The answer is, this fellow davened to Hashem and was answered. As opposed to his friend, he davened, but he was not answered. Why? Indeed, why that difference? So why? If so, was he answered and he not? The answer is the quality of that tefillah. This fellow who was responded to davened a full, wholehearted tefillah. Rashi says niskaven, and therefore ne'ene. He was responded to. The other fellow who did not daven a wholehearted, complete, devoted tefillah was not responded to. Apparently, according to Rabbi Meir, tefillah has the ability to overturn even a Gezar Din. This fellow is deathly ill. His tefillah, a tefillah shlema with full kavanah, can overturn that, tear up the Gezar Din. So even a yachid has that ability. Rabbi Yehuda Kessler, no, I disagree. Kan koidim Gezar Din, kan lach Gezar Din. Depends. If he's still before the conclusion of the din, before the sealing of the judgment, yeah, he can change things. But afterwards, it's too late. Rabbi Yitzchak Amar, he makes sort of a compromise. If it's a true tza'aka, crying out, a fully dependent tefillah on Hashem, yafet tza'aka l'adam bein koidim Gezar Din, bein lach Gezar Din, that works whether before or after the Gezar Din. In any case, we seem to have a machlokes tanaim. Rabbi Yehuda holds, a yachid cannot overturn a Gezar Din, whereas Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yitzchak hold, he does have the ability to overturn a Gezar Din. Says the Gemara, Gezar Din that tzibur mikra. Do you mean to say that a Gezar Din, applying to a tzibur, will get torn up if they do tshuva, if they daven? We have one pasuk in Yirmiyah which says, Kib simi ro'a libech, Klal Yisrael, wash out your heart from all your wickedness, cleanse yourself of averis. It works. Uksiv, we have another pasuk which says it doesn't work. Even if you rinse yourself with soap, you add cleansing agents. Your avera is nichtam, maloshen kesem, remains a stain. It doesn't get removed. Oh. And there we say, cleanse yourself to remove your stains. My love, should we not explain as follows? must be that it depends on which stage we're holding it. Kan kodim gzardin, before gzardin, kipsi mura libech, cleanse yourself. Kan lach gzardin, the other pasuk, that it remains a stain is after gzardin is something permanent. So even a tzibur can't overturn a gzardin. Loy, no. Idvi lach gzardin, both psukim are describing after gzardin. V'leikasha, the answer is, kan b'gzardin sheyeshi shvur. When the gzardin was issued with an oath, with a shvur, that Hashem committed himself to bringing about the gzardin, that's a fait accompli. It cannot be overturned. Kan b'gzardin she'eni shvur. The pasuk which describes Klal Yisrael cleansing himself of averos is speaking even when there was a gzardin, but without a shvur, didn't have that severity, that absoluteness. Where do we find the concept of a gzardin with a shvur? Kedar of Shmuel bar Amid, Omar of Shmuel bar Amid, some say Omar Shmuel bar Nachmeni, Omar b'Yenison. Menayin gzardin sheyeshi moy shvur she'ein nikar. Where do we find a gzardin with a shvur cannot be overturned? Shenamar l'chein yishbati l'beis Eli. So this is a story involving the children of Eli HaKohen, Chafni and Pinchas, who acted inappropriately. They snatched the karbanos for themselves before Hakrava, etc. So they abused the karbanos, and Hashem responded with an oynish, with a shvur as well. L'chein yishbati l'beis Eli. I made a shvur pertaining to Eli's family. I will not allow their oven to be atoned for, to be cleaned up through zevach, through mincha, through tshuva, through karbanos. This gzardin was absolute and cannot be overturned, even through tshuva, even though we're speaking about a community, the whole family, all the descendants of Eli. A gzardin with a shvur cannot be overturned, even by a tzibur. Continues the Gemara, but there is a way out, even in this case. Amar Rava, some Agoris Amar Rabba, bezevach b'mincha in a meskaper. Pasuk says you can't use a zevach, a mincha. Karbanos can't be mechaper. Avol meskaper hu b'Torah. If you add a lot of Torah, that can be mechaper, even this chet of Bnei Eli. So their einish was to die young, but if they immerse themselves in Torah, they can be zeicha to atone for that avera and extend their life. Abai Omar, he adds another element. Bezevach mincha in meskaper. Karbanos can't address the chet. I will meskaper b'Torah b'gmilas chasadna. If you add much Torah and chesed as well, it can address the avera. In fact, Rabbi Abai, both of them, mid the base Eli ka'asu. They hailed from Eli's family. They were meant to die young, and what happened? They got their life extended because they were immersed in Torah and, in Abai's case, chesed. Rabbi the Asak b'Torah chaya arba'in shnin. Rabbi, who was immersed in Torah, he lived an extra 20 or 22 years, all the way to 40. Abai the Asak b'Torah ubigmilas chasadim. Abai, who was involved in Torah and an excessive amount of gmilas chasadim, chaya ashitin shnin. He lived for 60 years. Taisus points out that, of course, Rabbi was Isaac in chesed as well, but Abai was Asik tfeimine. He had a higher level of involvement in chesed as well as Torah, and therefore he had a double schus. He lived up to 60. Explain to Maharsha, how come when it comes to zevach and mincha, no effect? Torah and chesed, yes. So he says, we all know the Mishnah. Al shloisha dvarim ha'ilam oimid, the three pillars, Torah, avodah, gmilas chasadim. The Bnei Eli abused avodah. They misused the karbanos for their own benefit, and they no longer could have a ta'ilas, a benefit from karbanos, from zevach and mincha, something which they abused. But the other two pillars, Torah and chesed, can still benefit them, and therefore, if they involve themselves in hasmada b'Torah and over-involvement in chesed, they can accomplish a kapara. Tana Rabbanan, in fact, it was a mishpacha achas hoyseb Yerushalayim, a certain family lived in Yerushalayim, who were experiencing a tragedy after tragedy. The fellows in this family would die young, 18 years old. They came to seek counsel. It was Rabbi Yechim and Zakkai. What's going on? What should we do? Amar lahem, so he told them, I have a question. Shema mishpachas Eliatem. Maybe you come from mishpachas Eli, who has an einish applied to them. So the people in your home will die young. 18 years old. Marshal says, Ben Shmoines Chuppah, it's the time we call him an Ish. So from 18 and up, they die. Go immerse yourself in Torah, that will extend your life. And they followed that advice. They listened. They involved themselves in Torah and they lived longer. And in an expression of gratitude, what did they do? They renamed the family name. That mishpacha was from now on called Mishpachas Rabbi Yochanan. That was the last name, Rabbi Yochanan. Al Shmai, after Rabbi Yochanan, who gave them this sound advice, which gave them Arichas Yamim. There's another Gemara elsewhere where this woman was experiencing tragedy after tragedy when her son would die after bris milah, and she went to Rav Nosson Habavli and he told her, look, do this, do that, delay the bris until he absorbs his blood, etc. He gave her some medical advice. She followed and it was successful, and out of gratitude she gave a name to her son, Nosson Habavli, after Rabbi Nosson. So naming a person even after somebody alive has a mocker in the Gemara. Amar Shmuel ban Inya Mishmei Rav. Menayin Gzardin shal tzibur she'inen nechtam. Where do we find that Gzardin applying to a community doesn't get sealed? Doesn't get finalized. What do you mean? Einay nechtam doesn't get finalized. Vaksiv nechtam avoynech lefanay. By this pasuk earlier, it creates a stain. Some learn nechtam, even though it's spelled with a chaf and ches are interchangeable. It gets stained, it gets sealed, it gets finalized. There is a gzardin. So what do you mean it's einay nechtam? Ella. What I meant is afagav shenechtam nikra. A gzardin shel tzibur, even after it's finalized, can be torn apart and overturned. How do we know? Shenamar Hashem Elokeinu b'chol kareinu elav. Look what close relationship we have with Hashem. Whenever we turn to Him, He listens to us. Even after Gzardin, a tzibur has the ability to change things. What do you mean? V'ksiv do Hashem b'yimatzah. You meant to approach Hashem when He is available, only at certain times. It's not a guaranteed system. Hasam b'yachad, hachab b'tzibur. Over there, it's a yachad. Only has certain times that you can approach Hashem to change things, meaning before Gzardin. But over here, by a tzibur, they can come any time. B'yachad emas. When has a yachad the ability to do so? 10 days between Rosh HaShanna and Kippur, meaning before Gzardin, he can turn things around. But a tzibur can always turn things around, except when there is a shvuah involved. Even then, the Gemara gave us some solutions as well. We have a passage which says, Vayika seres hayomim, vayagav Hashem es novel. So this was when David HaMelech was escaping from Shaul. He had 10 slaves, 10 servants who he sent over to this fellow Novel to seek assistance. He refused to help, but he did serve them a meal. 1 meal each, a total of 10 meals. And Vayika seres hayom, after 10 days, vayagav Hashem es novel, Hashem struck down Novel. He punished him. Why the 10-day delay? Yud Yomim might be the tayu. Why was there a 10-day delay? Says the Gemara 2 Tirutzim. Amar Vidak, Amar Rav, Keneged Eser Legimus. Shenasan Novel La'abdei David corresponds to the 10 legimus, 10 meals. The Novel served the Abdei David. Hashem gave him schar and delayed his demise 10 days. Rav Nachman Amar Ravua, Elu Yud Yomim Shebein Rosh HaShanna Yom Kippur. These 10 days were actually those 10 between Rosh HaShanna and Yom Kippur, where Hashem waited and waited to see perhaps he'll do tshuva and turn things around. So in conclusion, when it comes to the power of tefillah, of tshuva, if it's kodim gzardin, even a yachid could accomplish much. After gzardin, well, by a yachid we have a machlekes, by a tzibur certainly they can do so as long as it does not have a shvur. The Mishnah spoke about Rosh HaShanna being the time of judgment for all people. Rosh HaShanna, kol ba'ei ha'olam oivren lefanav, they pass in front of Hashem, ki b'nei moren. My ki b'nei moren, what does that mean? We have 3 tiruts. Hacha, over here in Babel, Targimu, they interpreted, ki b'nei mrona, like these sheep, being led through the entranceway, let out of the entranceway of the pen, one by one, to enable the Maser Behema to be separated. So it's one at a time. Every individual, every neshama, gets his personal time with Hashem on Rosh HaShanna. So Hashem judges a person individually. Rish Lakish Amar Kimalis Beis Morin or Meirin. This steep pathway through Beis Morin, where travelers have to pass through single file. Again, the same concept, every person individually at that time of din. Rav Yehuda Shmuel Kechayolos Shel Beis David, compared to the troops of David HaMelech's army, who were counted one by one on the way out to war. So Kivnei Morin, Morin is Lashon Moraim, governance, like the troops of the government, of the authorities. So every person individually on Rosh HaShanna. Amar Rabba bar Chana or Rabbi Yechanan, even though we speak about every person being judged individually by his own merits and his own value, but still the kulan niskaron b'skirachas, all of Klal Yisrael, all people are scanned in one shot. Now, what's the significance of individual and collective scanning? So the Farshim say, based on the Maral, there are two aspects of judgment, two aspects of evaluating a person by his own right. What did you do as an individual? And then we speak about his responsibility to others as well. We look at him in the context of his community, or furthermore, in context of the broader world out there. How did he affect others? How was his influence felt by others? And likewise, if he's to get punished, how's that kind of punishment going to affect others? Is it fair to pain other people on account of him? So everything goes into the cheshbon. Everything is accounted for. Therefore, we find both aspects in the Gemara. In fact, the Gemara brings 3 pshatim to Bnei Mar, and the question is, why 3 pshatim? What is the deeper meaning behind these 3 interpretations of Beis Morin? Sheep traveling up this steep cliff, or troops of David HaMelech's army, says the Maral. Malus Beis Morin, go single file up that steep mountain, each individual on his own. That represents the individual realm of din. You for yourself. The Bnei Imrana, sheep. He's part of the sheep community. So in that sense, he's viewed as part of his community. How he affected others, how others affected him. And that also was part of the equation. Thirdly, Kechayolos Shel Beis David, a part of it. The government troop, they're part of they represent the Klal Yisrael. So in this sense, we are judging the person as he relates to the broader entity of Klal Yisrael. And that's also an equation. That's also an element in this equation of din. So a person is judged in all realms, all aspects, in all these variations. Omar Rab Nachman bar Yitzchok afanana mitanina. You're telling me that everybody gets scanned as one and judged collectively as well? We actually find this in the Mishnah, which brings a pasuk that reads Hayetzer Yachad Libam Hamevin Al Kol Ma'aseh. That's the Mishnah. My Kama, what is the pasuk trying to say? Ilay Machik Amar is the pasuk saying the Branu L'Kuli Alma. Hashem is the Yetzer Yachad Libam, which means the Branu, He created L'Kuli Alma, everybody. And Yachad Libam means Umiyached Libayu Kadadi, and all hearts joined together. Everybody's running along the same track. Well, that's not true. You see clearly it's not so. Everybody has their own personality, their own emotions. No two people are alike. So what does the pasuk mean? Oh, apparently the pasuk is telling you that Hashem was the creator. I have to add a word. Hashem takes a look at everybody together. All their hearts as one. As though they're part of one single entity. Hashem sees how they affect each other, how they influence each other. And he evaluates all their ma'asim accordingly. Says the Mishnah, Al Shisha Chadashim Ashtuchin Yotzim. 6 times a year, they would send out emissaries to inform the outlying communities on which day Bezdin was Mekadesh the Chodesh. They had a choice, right? A month could have 29 days, in which case Rosh Chodesh is day 30. Or a month could have 30 days, in which case Rosh Chodesh is the following day. That's called a Chodesh Me'uber, a leap month, a full month. It's called Chodesh Mali. The Bnei HaGoyla, people living out in the Golis, had no way of knowing those days. No way of knowing what was going on in Yerushalayim. and how to arrange their Yom Tovim. So they sent out shluchim 6 times a year, al shisha chadashim, hashluchim yetz, to tell them what day Rosh HaShanna, Rosh Chodesh was established. Al Nisan, after the Mekadosh Chodesh Nisan, they sent out shluchim Pnei Pesach. So they know what day Pesach falls, on what day Pesach falls. Al Av Pnei Tanis. They would send out shluchim after Rosh Chodesh Av to inform them when to establish the Tanis of Tisha B'Av. Apparently, Mishnah speaking, even after the Churban Beis Hamikdash, they continued using Kiddush HaChodesh based on Edom and Re'iyah and Bezdin. They need to know what day to fast. Al Elul b'pnei Rosh HaShanna. They sent them out by Elul. This way they know what day to establish Rosh HaShanna. The Tosfos says, of course, they wouldn't know exactly which day because they wouldn't know how long Elul was, but they would make a double Rosh HaShanna, but they have to know the starting point, when Aleph Elul is. And based on that, they would know when to make Rosh HaShanna. Al Tishrei, they would send them out after Rosh Hashanah. This way they know when to establish the Yom Tovim, Yom Kippur, Sukkot. Al Kislev Bnei Chanukah, Val Adar Bnei Purim. Ukshai Beis Hamikdash Kaim, in the time of the Mikdash, Yoitzin Afal Ir. They had one more, B'pnei Pesach Katan. So during the Mikdash, they had to send them out for Ir as well. This way they know when to apply Pesach Sheni, Pesach Katan. It's called Pesach Katan because it's a short Pesach, as opposed to the 7-day Pesach. It's just 1 day, and also Katan means very few people were involved in this Yom Tov. In any case, this was important for Chodesh Ir. Some actually removed the word Af because it's really not an addition. Because either way, it was only 6 months. During the Mikdash, they didn't send them out for Av because they didn't fast Tisha B'Av. So either way, it's 6 months. During the Mikdash, it had Ir with no Av. After the Mikdash, Av with no Ir. Asks the Gemara, why only 6 months? V'lib kunami atamas v'tevis. They have to send shluchim Tammuz and Tevis because Tammuz has a fast day, Shiva Asar b'Tammuz, and so does Tevis, Asar b'Tevis. The Amar of Chana bar Bizna, Amar of Shimon Chasida, that Bizman said when there's no Mikdash, those days are fast days. And this Mishnah speaking about after Beis Hamikdash as well. So what happened to Tammuz and Tevis? So the pasuk says, "My dichsiv." What does the pasuk mean? Kay Amar Hashem tzvakos. So this was Hashem speaking to Yisrael who were returning to Yerushalayim and rebuilding the second Beis Hamikdash, and He was telling them, "Look, those fast days which you experienced as a result of the first Churban will now be overturned, transformed into days of sasin v'simcha, happiness and joy, because of the rebuilding of the Beis Hamikdash." Kay Amar Hashem tzvakos. Tzom HaRevi, all those fast days. Number 1, the Tzom HaRevi, the one taking place in the 4th month, in Tammuz. The Tzom HaChamishi, the one taking place in Av, 5th month. The Tzom HaShvi, fast day, in 7th month, Tzom Gedalia. The Tzom HaAsiri, the one taking place in the 10th month, in Teves. All those, Yeh L'Beis Yehuda L'Sasan L'Simcha. They're going to be considered holidays. What do you mean? Karilu Tzom, says the Gemara. First you call them fast days, Tzom. And then you refer to them as days of joy. V'karilu sasan v'simcha, answers the Gemara. Depends at one point in history. Bizman sheish shalom, when there was peace, Rashi learns, the non-Jews were not ruling over Yisrael. Yisrael were back in Eretz Yisrael with the Beis Hamikdash. Hiyu sasan v'simcha. Those days will not be experienced as days of happiness and joy. However, ein shalom tzayim. If there's no longer peace after the churban of the second bias, and we're back. Those days revert back to days of tzayim, sad days, fast days. Okay, so Bizman Hazeh, which is the point in history that the Mishnah is referring to, we have to have shluchim going out for Tammuz and Tevis as well, so they know which days to fast. Amar Apapachika Amar. What Reb Shimon Chasida meant to say is like this: Bizman Sheish, there are 3 levels. Bizman Sheish Shalom, a time of peace, time of Mikdash. You sasan simcha, those days will be sasan v'simcha. No more fasting. Yesh gzeres hamachas. However, when there's a gzeres hamachas decreeing against doing mitzvahs, that's terrible. It's tzayim. Those days now revert to days of tzayim, of sadness, of fasting, of tshuva. So we have 2 extremes. When things are going well, sasan v'simcha. those fast days have been transformed into days of joy and happiness. When things are going terrible, there's Gzeres HaMalchus preventing us from doing mitzvahs, then we have Tzayim. But if it's somewhere in the middle, let's say it's Ein Gzeres HaMalchus, there is no Gzera today, but Ve'ein Shalom, nor do we have peace. We're off the land, no Beis HaMikdash, it's not the way it's supposed to be, the Goyim are still ruling over us, then it's up to you. Ratzu Misanan. If they wish, they can fast. Ratzu Ein Misanan, if wish, they can decide not to fast. And therefore, says the Gemara, nowadays, there is no Shalom. We're subject to the rule of the Goyim. We have no Mikdash. We're of Eretz Yisrael, but there is no Gzeres HaMalchus, and therefore it's up to us. And since it was arbitrary, it was optional, Chacham did not see a need to have to send out shluchim, to trouble the shluchim to go out and travel and tell everybody about the Yom Tov, about the fast days. Whatever you do is okay. It's interesting that the Rambam Pirush Mishnah learns, different than other Rishonim, he learns that during the time of the second Beis HaMikdash, they observed Tisha B'Av as a fast day. Big Chiddush. And then Mepharshim explain, apparently the Rambam holds that even during the time of the second Beis HaMikdash, it was considered a period of lack of shalom because, look, all the Malchias were ruling in Klal Yisrael. Even during the Mikdash, we had Yavan, everybody was over us, and therefore it justified, it continued, it was continuously observed as a day of fasting, even during the time of the second Beis HaMikdash. Okay, in any case, certainly when it comes to the other fast days, says the Gemara, it wasn't something which had to be observed, and therefore there was no shluchim. Yochi Tisha B'Av nami. Then what's the difference? And Tisha B'Av as well. It's optional. Why do we need shluchim going out? Omar Papa, Tisha B'Av is different. Shani Tes B'Av. Tisha B'Av is different, it's more severe, it's more serious. There was a multitude of tzaros taking place on Tisha B'Av. Damar b'Tisha B'Av, Charav habayis b'Rishayna b'Shniya. The first and second Mikdash were destroyed on that very same day. And Tosfos points out that the Churban Beis HaMikdash is something more severe than other tzaros. And another thing he says, because the same tzara was huchbal, it repeated itself once and again, so that makes it more severe and serious. What else happens? Says the Gemara Menilka, the Beitar, this great city of Beitar was captured on that day. V'necho sha'ir, and Yerushalayim was plowed through and destroyed. So that's something which we keep. It's not something which we consider a reshus, something optional. It's absolute, we keep it like a chiyuv, and therefore the shluchim would go out to inform the Bnei Goyla when to establish Tisha B'Av. By the way, the Ritva learns that even though the Gemara is mashma, the other fasts are optional, but after a while, Klal Yisrael makabel upon themselves, and that explains why nowadays we observe all these fast days. Tanya will learn in the Bryce. Rab Shimon, Arba Dvarim, Hoya Rabbi Kiva Derish. You know, there are four things that Rabbi Kiva used to darshan, and I disagreed. Ve'ein ani derish kemoisei. I had a different way of learning those psukim. One of those things, one of those discussions revolve around the pasuk that we just learned. The pasuk that mentions 4 fast days. Rabbi Shimon learned it one way, and Rabbi Kiva learned it differently. So the pasuk started with Tzom HaRevi, the tzom taking place in month 4. What is that? The Tes B'Tammuz. On the 9th day of Tammuz, Shebai Hufka Ha'ir, on that day, Yerushalayim was breached. Shanamar B'Tisha L'Chodesh, the 9th day of that month. Vayechzak Arav Ba'ir, the famine increased. Lo Yehoya Lechem La'ama Oretz, they had nothing to eat. Vatibok Ha'ir, and the ear city was breached. Tosfos says this was the first time around, but the second time around it happened on Yud Zayin B'Tammuz, and that's why we observe Yud Zayin as the fast day. So this happened the 9th day of the 4th month, which is Tammuz. Says the Gemara, "My curly Revi." Why do we refer to it as Revi? Revi l'Chadashim, the 4th month. The pasuk continues, Tzom HaChamishi, which is Tisha B'Av, the 9th day of month 5. Shaboy Nisraf Beis Elokeinu, on which Hashem's house was burnt. V'mai curly Chamishi. Why is it 5? Chamishi l'Chadashim, the 5th month. The pasuk continues, Tzom HaShvi, fast day on month 7, which is Tishrei. Zeh Gimel B'Tishrei. 3rd day of Tishrei, what happened? Shaboy Nera Gedalia ben Achikam. Gedalia was appointed a ruler over the remnants, whoever was left behind there, it's Israel after the Golos Bavel. He was appointed by the non-Jewish authorities, And he was killed in that day. Umi Hargai, who killed him? Yishmael ben Nisanya Hargai. This fellow was a descendant of David HaMelech, and he killed him out of jealousy. And because of that, the Jews escaped Eretz Yisrael because they were afraid that the Goyim would blame it on them. That they rebelled against the Babylonians, and that's why they killed their representative, which wasn't really true. But because of that, they had to leave Eretz Yisrael. And this exasperated the Golus experience. There was nowhere left in Eretz Yisrael, and that's why it's a day of mourning, a day of Tanis Lamedcha. Teaches us Sheshkulam Misasin Shal Tzadikim. The death of a tzaddik in these circumstances is equated to Sreifas Beis Elokeinu, the burning of the Beis Hamikdash, and that's why they established a fast day on that day, just as during Tisha B'Av, the Yom Sreifas Beis Hashem. V'amai Kor L'Shvi, why does the pasuk refer to as 7th? Shvi L'Chadashim, a month 7, third day of month 7, Tishrei. Now comes the 4th Tanis, which will be the subject of Machlokes between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shimon. So up until now, it was L'Kuli Alma. The question is going to be how to interpret the next part of the pasuk, which says Tzoyim Atziri, the Tzoyim on the Asiri on the 10th month. Ze Asara B'Tevis. So Rabbi Shimon is speaking, right? And he's saying, look, Rabbi Akiva used to have a way of learning this pasuk, and I disagreed. Rabbi Akiva learned as follows: Tzoyim Asiri Ze Asara B'Tevis. It's a fast day taking place in the Asiri in the 10th month, which is Tevis. 10th day of 10th month. What happened? Sheboy Somach Melech Bavel Yerushalayim, in which the king of Bavel started his siege on Yerushalayim. So that was the first point. Siege, and then later on breached, destroyed, and Gedaliah was killed. In that order. Shenemar Vayidvar Hashem Alai B'Shana Tshis. This was Hashem speaking to Yecheskel, who was already in Golus, after having gone there with the first group of Goyim, Golus Yechonyam. And he tells them, on month 10, Ba'asar HaChodesh, day 10, month 10, Asar B'Tevis, Lamar as follows: Ben Adam, is how he addressed him. Ben Adam, Ksav L'cha, Es Shem Hayim, record this day, Monday, Tuesday, Es Etzem Hayim Hazeh, and the day of the month, as a day of significance, a day of mourning. Samach Melech Bava al Yerushalayim. On this day, the Melech Bavel started laying his siege around Yerushalayim. So Tzoyim Asiri is in reference to the siege laid by Melech Bavel, which occurred Asara B'Tevis. V'amai Kor the Asiri. Why is it called Asiri? Asiri L'Chadashim on 10th month. Now, chronologically, this is a bit out of order, because this is actually the first event that happened. The pasuk really should have referred to this event as number 1. First came siege, then came breaching, then came everything else. Why did the pasuk listed last? To follow the sequence of the Chadashim. So although historically, chronologically, it was a bit out of order, but the pasuk listing the Tanesim following the months chose this order. First, the event that took place in Tammuz, then in Av, Tishrei, and down to Tevis, although the Tevis event happened first. And this is who speaking? Rabbi Akiva. V'ani, but me, Shimon referring to himself, I disagree. V'ani eini oimekin, I disagree. I want to keep it chronologically intact. So I disagree with the Pshat in Tzoyim Asiri. It's not referring to the Samach Melech Bavel Yerushalayim, rather referring to an event which happened the last on the list. Number 4, that's why it belongs down there. We fast on day 5 of Tevis. We don't do that, we follow Asiri of Tevis. But this was his opinion. It was meant to mark an event that happened on that day. On that day, the terrible news reached the people out in Golus. That the city of Yerushalayim was destroyed, was captured, people were killed. That was the last event, chronologically. That was the last event that happened. Shenemar, Vayibesh Rosh HaShanna, Ba'asiri, on Teves, B'chamisha l'chodesh, day 5 of month 10, Le'galus Seinu. This was year 12 of the Galus, of that group who actually went to Galus first. In any case, that's when they heard the news. On this day 5 of B'Teves, this fellow came running from Yerushalayim, Lamar, Huksa Ir. City was overturned, was destroyed. So why was that established as a day of fasting? V'asu, the Chachamim considered Yom Shmuel, the day where they received terrible news, as a terrible day. Ki Yom Sreifa, as though it was the day that the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. Has the same significance, and a fast day was enacted on that day. Says Reb Shimon, V'nirin dvarai midvarav. You know what? My approach seems more logical, more probable than Rabbi Kiva's. You know why? Shani Omer, because according to me, it's Al Rishon, the first item mentioned in the pasuk. Rishon happened first. Val Achron Achron, the last item in the pasuk, happened last. The event mentioned first, Tes B'Tammuz, happened first, relative to the other events. That's when the city was breached. Then we have Av, destruction, Tishrei, Gedalia, and down to Teves, when the news arrived. So it makes sense. V'hu Omer Bar Kiva maintains that Al Rishon Achron, the first event mentioned in the pasuk, Tes B'Tammuz, happened after the event described later, Asar B'Teves. Asar B'Teves was the beginning of the siege, and Tes B'Tammuz was when the city was breached, which happened afterwards. So why is it mentioned before that event? Val Achron Rishon, and the last item mentioned in the pasuk, Asar B'Teves, when the siege began, is Rishon, is really chronologically before the event that happened mentioned earlier in the pasuk. So it's out of order. Elishu Moine Seidel Chadashim. Apparently, Rabbi Kiva is following the order of the months. Meaning that's why the pasuk goes listed in this manner. Although, as far as the chronological order of events, it's out of order. But we go with this list because we're following the Seder Chadashim. Tammuz, Av, Tishrei, and Teves. Ve'ani moine, but I am counting, I'm listing L'Seder Per Aniyos, and according to the Seder, the order of the tragic events. Okay, so in summary, Mishnah tells us that they would send shluchim to Goyla to tell them when Bezdin was Mekadosh HaChodesh. Al Shisha Chadashim HaShluchim Yotzim. They went out 6 times to ensure the proper arrangement of the Yom Tovim and the events. What about Tammuz? What about Teves? Says the Gemara, those weren't really mandatory, even Bizman Hazeh. Therefore, they didn't trouble the shluchim to travel out to tell them about the Kiddush HaChodesh during those months, whereas Tisha B'Av has added significance. It was considered obligatory, and therefore they had to ensure that it was observed the proper day. Regarding the fast days, Revi, Chamishi, Shvi, and Asiri, which represent all the fast days related to Tzara and Golas and Churban, those were observed after the Golas of the first bayis, but then they were transformed into Yom Tovim during the binyan of the second Beis Hamikdash, and then after the Churban, the fast days were established. And according to one pshat in the Gemara, some of them were only optional. Continues the Gemara. Itma, we learned Rav v'Rabbi Chanina Amri. They both say Batla Megillas Tanis. So Rashi will explain for us that there was a scroll called Megillas Tanis, which had a full list of days which were established by the Chachamim as days of joy, days of festivity, on which you're not meant to fast or conduct a hesped as a result of nisim that were experienced during those days. Now that's all good and well when we have a mikdash, when things are happy and joyous. When those Yimei Tzayim were transformed into Yimei Simcha, what happens after the Churban? Bizman Hazeh, do we still keep those days as Yimei Simcha? Do we still observe those dates mentioned in Megillas Tanis? So Rav and Chanina say no, Batla Megillas Tanis. All those Yom Tovim were now cancelled. We no longer have a Beis Hamikdash. Rabbi Yehuda Shimon Levi Amri, no, why Batla Megillas Tanis? So although those specific days of Tzayim were established, but when it comes to other Yom Tovim mentioned in the Megillah, we still keep them. Explains the Gemara. Rav Rabbi Chanina Amri, Batla Megillas Tanis. Why? Hachik Amar. Let's go back to that pasuk which we learned earlier, which taught us that Bizman Sheish Shalom, when there's peace in the world, when Yisrael are independent, living in Eretz Yisrael with the Beis Hamikdash. Yulus Hasan Simcha. Those fast days were observed as days of Yom Tovim. Ain Shalom, but otherwise there's no Shalom Tzom. It's back to fasting. V'hanach nami kihani, and all those days mentioned in Megillas Tanis have the same value, have the same status. When there's no Mikdash, everything gets cancelled. No more Yom Tovim, except for the ones mentioned in the Torah. But the ones established by the Chazal were cancelled. That's their opinion. Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon Levi Amri, they disagree. Loi batla Megillas Tanis. You know why? Hani, those 4 fast days which were transformed into Yom Tovim, they are dependent upon the presence of the Mikdash. Hani hu detalinu rachmanu b'bini beis hamikdash. Regarding those days, the Torah hinges them on the Bini Mikdash, because really they were meant to be fast days, right? If the first Mikdash was destroyed, they were fast days, but then they were transformed into Yom Tovim because we had a Binyan, as long as it's standing. But after the second Churban, they're back to fast days. Aval Hanach, but these Yom Tovim established by the Chacham, which are mentioned in Megillas Tanis, kaimi, they remain as is. They remain intact. They were never pending upon the Binyan Mikdash. Let's take a look at Rashi, around halfway down the Amid. Beginning with the words Batla Megillas Tanis. What is Megillas Tanis, says Rashi? Yom Tovim shekavu Chacham aydei nisim sheiru b'hem. Chacham established certain days as days of Yom Tov as a result of nisim that occurred throughout those days. V'ashram b'tanis, in which case you can't fast. V'yesh memach behesped. Some of them even have the hesped restriction. Because from a Megillah Achaz, they're all recorded in one Megillah, which read as follows: Ilain yoimayo the loylas anah behu. These days you're not meant to fast. And actually, I once noticed they reprinted. They found Megillas Tanis and it's reprinted in various versions. You find in the libraries. Take a look at it. It's very interesting. How many days a year were established as days of joy because of nisim that occurred? But that's only then. Achshav shecharav habayis batlu. The batlu matur besped b'tanis, in which case you could fast and have hesped. Why? Ein shalom tzayin. Those days which were celebrated as days of simcha during the Mikdash, but after Shalom is gone, Tzayim, they're back to Tzayim. Afakav Zman Habayis Kinun Ma'adim Tovim. So during Mikdash, they were called Ma'adim. Afterwards, they're back to fasting. B'anachanami, these as well. The Megillas Tanis, Kihani, Mashvinu, regarding the same level. Kiyechid Hani Batli, Hani Nami Batli. Those are Batal, these are Batal. Rabbi Yehuda disagrees. Talinu Bebinyan, those fast days, which were really established as fast days, they were temporarily turned into Yom Tovim because of the Binyan. But after the Churban, back to fasting. Sorry, initially. After the first Churban of the Mikdash, they were established as fast days. When the second Beis Hamikdash was built, they would consider it Yom Tovim. Right? So it depends on the binyan. If there's no binyan, they're back to fasting. Because initially, they were meant to be fast days. In essence, they're fast days. So the people in Gola sent a message. So they sent a question to whoever, to the Navi: should we continue fasting? The response was no. That's only when there's churban. But now, when there's a mikdash, it turns into Yom Tovim, as we learned earlier. So that pasuk earlier was a response to their question. Once you have the mikdash, it's Yom Tov. But as long as the mikdash is around, once the mikdash is gone, it reverts back to its original status as a day of fasting. But when it comes to the other days in Megillas Tanis, they aren't related to mikdash. They're not associated with binyan mikdash, and therefore, says Rabbi Yehuda Shimon Levi, they remain intact. Asks the Gemara, really? Masiv Rav Kahana. They have a story. Masa v'gozru tanas b'Chanukah b'Lud. In the town of Lud, there was some sort of gzera as a result of some sort of tzara, and they established a tanis, a day of fasting on Chanukah, which is one of those days mentioned in Megillas Tanis. V'yard Rabbi Lezer v'rachatz. Rabbi Lezer didn't like what they were doing. It's a day of Yom Tov. He went down to the bathhouse and bathed himself. Rabbi Shua went down to the seeper, took a haircut. They turned to the community. They said, "Tzu'u v'yis'anu. You're doing something wrong. You have to do kapara on what you're doing. Go fast again. Al mashin sanisim, because you fasted on Chanukah." And this was after the Churban Habayis. Eliezer Rishon lived after the Churban. Apparently, Chanukah still remained intact. Megillas Tanis is not bottle. Now, Tosfos points out, he asks a question. What do you mean? You could have asked the same question on the Mishnah. He said, send the Shluchim by Kislev Bnei Chanukah. The Mishnah speaking after the Churban Habayis. So he says, that wouldn't have been a kasha. Maybe it's not a Yom Tov, but they still would light Neiros, Zeichel Anes. Perhaps that's why they had to send Shluchim out. But here we see that it was considered a Yom Tov. Go fast, because you fasted on Chanukah. You did something wrong. So you see, Begillas Tanis is not bottle. This is a brisa, which proves it. Amar Rav Yosef, Shani Chanukah. Chanukah is different. Dika mitzvah, because we light Neiros on Chanukah. It has special significance, and that's regarded differently in the other days in Begillas Tanis. This was not bottle. Amar le Abaye. What do you mean? But to bottle ihi. Let the Yom Tov be bottle, but the bottle mitzvahs, and the mitzvah should be bottle. That's going to hold us back from even bottle the Yom Tov. So what? That there's a mitzvah observed on Chanukah. Even bottle the whole thing. If you meant to cancel all the Yom Tovim after the Churban, Elam Rav Yosef. What I meant is like this: Shani Chanukah the Mefarsim Nisa. Chanukah is different than other Yom Tovim in Megillas Tanis. It became part and parcel of our national repertoire. The Nes is so mefarsim, and we observe it we mark it, we celebrate it by lighting the Neiros. Says Rashi off to the left, the Mefarsim Nisa, Kvar Ugolil Kol Yisrael, they should not go by a mitzvahs, they consider it like a Torah Yom Tov. It's not correct, it's not appropriate to Mevatla, it's so part and parcel of our heritage, leave it alone. That's an exception. But perhaps the other Yom Tov mentioned in Megillas Tanis can be cancelled. Continues to go on. We have another example of a Yom Tov which was observed even after the Churban, but Losa B'Tishrei. Third day of Tishrei was established as a Yom Tov, and this is one of those dates mentioned in Megillas Tanis. What was the occasion? But Losa B'Tishrei, on the third day of Tishrei, B'Tilas Ad Karta, they were Mavatal mentioning the Shem Hashem in Shtarai from the documents. So they canceled this practice of mentioning Shem Hashem in documents. How does this whole thing come about? Because originally, Shegazra Malchus Yavan Gzeira, Malchus Yavan enacted a decree, Shalahaska Shen Shemayim Alpim. Nobody should mention Hashem. Don't associate with Hashem. And what happened? Shegavra Malchus Chashmonoi V'nitzcham. When the Malchus Ben Chashmonoi came about and Menatzeach won over the Greeks, his skinu shimaskirim. They went to the other extreme. They wanted to reintroduce our association and relation with Hashem. And they did it in a very high degree. His skin to masakan to go to the other extreme. Shiumaskir Shem Shemaim Afilu B'Shtaros. Going forward, mention Hashem's name even in civil documents. V'kacha yukoisim. And they would write as follows: B'shnas kach v'kach. They would date the star and say, "Look, it's taking place year such and such." L'yochanan kohen gadol l'kei elyon. Of Yochanan kohen gadol's rule, his being in office, a kohen l'kei elyon. This way you mention Hashem right and left. This was done to counteract what the Yevanim did. Now we're so connected to Hashem, in all our business dealings, it's always Hashem, Hashem. But it had a downside, because Chacham heard about this minhag. Amr, they said, it's not appropriate. You know why? It sounds good, but look what it can lead to. L'machar. What happens when he pays up his loan? And he takes the document, throws it into the garbage. The star is in the garbage with the Shem Hashem. It's not appropriate. You're trying to enhance, you're trying to megadol Shem Hashem, but if it leads to bezayin, it's not worth it. Ubitlam, and they objected to this minhag and they were vatla. They cancelled it. And that day was established as a Yom Tov because the kavod Hashem increased. Okay, so this is Megillas Tanis, a Yom Tov established on 3 of Tishrei. When did this happen? After the Churban, of course, right? More assuming. Now, if you're going to tell me that all the dates mentioned in Megillas Tanis were batal, think about it. Kamaisa batal. The original ones were batal. Whatever was established during the time of the binyan, Churban brings about cancellation. Does it make sense to add new Yom Tovim after the Churban, if the past ones are cancelled. Certainly you don't introduce new ones. Doesn't make sense. It's not the appropriate time. So why did they add a new Yom Tov of Gimel B'Tishrei? And says the Gemara, you're wrong. Chronologically, it's incorrect. It was speaking about Bizman Shebeis HaMikdash Kayim. This event took place during the Zman HaMikdash, in which case all agree. Megillas Tanis was still alive and well, and they introduced another Yom Tov as well to mark this occasion. Okay, we'll stop here, and Be'ez Hashem will pick it up tomorrow, on the top of the next Amud. So, what did we learn today? We discussed the power of tshuva, and the power of tzedakah and tefillah. Kodim Gzar Din, it's always effective. What about after Gzar Din? When it's at Tzibur, it certainly works, unless a shvua is associated with that Gzar Din. Regarding a yachid, achar Gzar Din, we have a machlekes. We learned about the various aspects of Din. Hashem treats us like a yachid, like part of a tzibur, and judges us accordingly. We learned about the 6 chadashim that the shluchim would travel to inform regarding Kiddush HaChodesh. We learned about those fast days, which during the Zman HaMikdash were turned into Yom Tovim. We learned about the 4 fast days, which are associated with the Churban HaMikdash. The one in Tammuz, the one in Av, the one in Tishrei, the one in Teves. We have 2 Shittas, 50 of Teves, or Asar of Teves. We have additional Yom Tovim mentioned in Megillas Tanis by machlekes, whether or not Megillas Tanis was batal after the Churban, but all agree Chanukah, and more later will tell us Purim as well, is certainly still observed Bizman Hazeh. All the best to all of us, and Hatzlacha Rabbah.